We're introducing a new series today, The Constitutional Question. Each week, we'll take one of the biggest stories we've been covering and try to help understand who has the power to decide. This week, the Justice Department created the so-called anti-weaponization fund as part of a settlement between President Trump and his own government over the leaking of his tax returns. The settlement also includes a pledge from the IRS that it will not pursue any legal claims it may have against Trump, his family, and his companies. And while details regarding the fund remain murky, it's being described as a nearly $1.8 billion cash flow to compensate victims of, quote, weaponization and lawfare. Many of Trump's allies who have faced legal prosecution have said they believe they stand to receive some of that money. Some lawmakers and ethics groups have criticized the fund as a, quote, act of self-dealing on the part of the president. CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor Jessica Levinson joins me now with her new background. I love it. Is the Justice Department independent of the president? What does the Constitution say about this?
So the Constitution says yes and no, but yes to I'm so excited to be able to have these conversations about how the Constitution affects our daily lives with you. So let's talk about the Department of Justice. It is an executive agency. And unlike some other executive agencies, for instance, the Federal Reserve, it's not described as independent. It truly does fall within the executive branch. But the reason I said yes and no is that for decades, we have had norms that indicate that when it comes to the Department of Justice, they need to look at the facts and the law and not what a president's particular preferences are. And the Department of Justice is supposed to do exactly that, to help enforce justice. And so it is not part of the Constitution, but it certainly has been a norm that if that department is truly to serve its purpose, it should not look at what is helpful for a president politically or personally.
So let me shift into reverse. How can the sitting president sue his own government? Basically, why we're here.
Okay, because the president was suing as Donald J. Trump as opposed to President Trump. And any individual can sue the government, but there is some, let's say, awkwardness to be sure here. And part of that is because obviously he is suing his own government. He is a sitting president. And in fact, one of the questions in the beginning of this suit was whether there truly were adversarial parties. In addition, when it comes to suing your own government, who's going to defend that suit? Well, let's go back to our first discussion. It's the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice is supposed to defend the IRS, but the Department of Justice is also, of course, as we just talked about, organized under and responds to the President of the United States. So it can happen, but there are some serious red flags if it does happen.
So on the fund, what does the Constitution say about who decides what government is spent and where?
So briefly, obviously, Congress has the power of the purse. Congress is supposed to appropriate funds. Now, there is a fund that allows the Department of Justice to dip in and say, we can use money for settlements. This settlement is unique for a whole host of reasons, including the fact that we don't know exactly who the claimants are, what the criteria would be to try and recover. And so, yes, we have these types of settlement funds, but no, in my view, nothing like we've seen in this case.
Jessica Levinson, thanks so much for doing this. We'll see you next week.
Great.